Society in Masons Point, which is a mouthful, so if you're into acronyms, FSSMP. So let me introduce our board. Yes, so I'm the president. You've met Emily. Donna Scott, who's not here, is like Emily. They're people persons. They like talking to people. They're good at talking to people, so they're looking after our communications. Cora Swinimer, she's our vice president. Cora prefers plants. So she's a gardener and a landscape professional.
Cora, I know, I'm sorry.
So she is getting her head around the whole fire-resistant plants and how it's going to change our gardening, and learning from that, working with the landscaping associations and trying to get these plant tags on plants in our gardeners. And so she is going to help funnel this information down to us and try and convince us to change some of our ways, or at least give you the right information so you can make informed decisions about what you do. Suzanne Rodenizer's not here. Oh, you are there. There's Suzanne. So she's a healthcare professional. Does a lot planning our new hospital facilities and helping with disease control, but really her heart is more into the four-legged patients than the two-legged ones. And she's done a lot with trying to get people out of hospitals in emergency situations, so I think Masons Point won't be as hard as that. And then there's Paul Shaw, who's in the back. He's an engineer. I don't want anything bad said about engineers. And he's also a volunteer firefighter. He's our treasurer. And yes, I'm also an engineer, and not as good with the communicating and people things, but my background is in safety risk management and loss prevention and emergency preparedness. So that's who we are. We are the founding members, and we want you to be kind to us. We're learning our way in this. We're getting, so just be kind, help us out.
You sound like a pretty well-rounded team, though. You got lots of...
Well, so when we started this, you start asking, and the resources start coming out. We are a very diverse community. We have a huge amount of skill sets and resources, and things we don't even know we need are going to exist there. So, and you know, we look forward to having everyone help out in this. So how did we come about? So last fall, as we were becoming aware of this wildfire risk assessment and that we were at the higher extreme risk, surprise, but really no surprise. And we had a small group of us had a meeting with Kara. She explained about this risk assessment and about the Fire Smart program and about why these homes burn and others don't, and there's science behind it. And there's a lot that we as individual property owners can do. There's a lot we can do together. But then there's also things that are too big for us, like those big trees. And we need to access other resources that can help us to do those things. So we spread the word to other neighbors, and before you know it, there's about 30 of us who are thinking about this and saying, we need to do something. So the 6 of us volunteered to look at what do we need to do and how are we going to go about doing it. So we took the next 4 months. We talked to a lot of people, government agencies, we talked to other homeowners associations, we had some legal advice, but we had no money, so we had to pay with cookies. And we learned that, yes, we wanted to be part of the Fire Smart program. We wanted to follow that because that's a really good, it's like hand-feeding us what we need to do. We want to access some of these funds, and we want to have a big voice. And then we knew we had to become incorporated. So we did incorporate as a nonprofit community association. Something I said at the beginning, I am never doing that. Here we are. So we've done that, and we've been organized, and this is our first Fire Smart event. So that's how we got here today.
Good work.
So, yeah, it's been good. We have gotten from the speakers here tonight has been invaluable, and Pam has met with you I don't know how many times, and when we came to the realization, she's the one that said, you have to incorporate.
Let's do this.
Let's do this, and she walked us through the step-by-step process and said, here's how you do it, here's how you make it easy, and here's how you have minimal costs. So thank you to you guys for getting us here. So who can be a member? So, can everyone see this? Our red line around Mason's Point. So it's the land mass that comes out from the St. Margaret's Bay Road that then leads into Full Mason's Point. Anyone within that zone can be a member of our Fire Smart Society of Mason's Point. And we really encourage you to sign up and become a member. The more members we have, the bigger voice we have, the more, you know, our representatives can say, this is Mason's Point, this is what they want, and it will really help us in that.
And as for planning, if we're looking towards evacuation planning, emergency planning, if we already have everybody's contact information, it makes it very easy to pass that information along. It makes it very easy to reach out and ask the question, are you interested in this, or would you like us to add you to this list as well? So while it's not necessary to become a member, it is a really solid way to make sure that you're getting all of this information from the people that we're chatting with, and that you don't get lost. Like, you know, we can do as much as we can. We're knocking on doors and spreading the word from friend to friend, from neighbor to neighbor. But when we have someone's email, it's so much easier just to know that we're sending off all the information so everyone has it.
Right, I'm going to hand it back to Emily. She's going to talk more about what we are planning to do, how we're going to go about doing it, and how you guys can help us.
Okay, so so I wasn't around for the very start of this, but I became interested when I started hearing about the Fire Smart program. And really, that was the biggest thing for me, was like, oh, how am I going to stay up to date on this information? So that's one of our main purposes as the Fire Safety Society of Mason's Point, is that we want to make sure we are informing people so that people know what they can do, they know what's available to them, they know what resources we have as a community, and they know who to ask questions to as well. We also want to advocate for our community. So again, the more members we have, the more that we're able to do that with governmental agencies. I can email Pamela Lovelace all I want. I can email my elected officials all I want, but as an individual, it only goes so far. But if we are speaking as a community, if we know that we have support behind us, we can take that to the next level. So we are able to negotiate with different people, we're able to organize events like this, whereas as an individual, it might be up to you to find all that information to get your voice out there, rather than being part of a community group. We also are aiming to plan and host community events just like this one. So hopefully, as part of the Fire Smart program, we will be focusing on fire prevention mitigation efforts on Mason's Point. So things like cleanup days, if you need support with cleaning up debris from your yard, or if you're not sure how to clear out a tree that's fallen down, or if you just want to go around with neighbors, if you know someone needs some help in their yard, you can go and support them that way. So all of those sorts of community events, staying informed of those things that are going on, being able to reach out and ask for help for your own property as well. So once we're able to get some funding, once we're able to get some of those grants, that can help take care of some of the issues that as a homeowner, it's very difficult to do. So I know it's very expensive to do maintenance that is bigger than just like, I'll put it in my yard waste bag and put it at the end of the lane. So having that funding available to a community can really help solve some of those issues. It also opens that communication. So if you notice that there is maybe something that you're concerned about on Mason's Point, or if you notice that something is not being maintained, but you'd like to step in or give some advice on how to maintain it, a group like this will also allow for that sort of discourse. So I guess I've sort of touched on already different levels of involvement. So it starts with all of you individually, all of us individually, taking what Kara has told us. Tonight, just go home. Don't think too much about it. Just let it settle. Maybe it's just walking around your property and going, oh, okay, maybe I could move that. Or maybe it's when you are planting things in the spring, or you're clearing up in the fall. And it's just little things that you can do that you've learned. You can stay informed about the different tips from Fire Smart. You can stay informed about fire safe practices. And then if you're already in your garden making changes, those are the times when it's easy just to make those changes as you're going along. There's no obligation to do that, but the more that you know, the easier it is to implement those changes. Neighborhood support, so things like our community cleanup events, or if maybe you have some resources that you'd like to share with your neighbors, we think, oh, this would be great if I could come along and help people chainsaw up those big branches that are in the way, or if you have some expertise that you'd like to share or different suggestions, that's a really great way to get involved at the neighborhood level. And then external organizations, so all of the communication that we've done so far with different organizations, different community groups as well, helps us understand what's happening and what we can do as a community. And sometimes we have great big ideas, and then we can hear from other communities that, no, that's not really what we should be doing, or some more suggestions of what might be more feasible in our community. So all of those different levels combine to make for a lot of options for how you can get involved. So some of the ones I've already mentioned, just becoming familiar with the Fire Smart program. Here's got lots of information here. So afterwards, if you'd like to come and grab any of this information, take home with you. If you'd like to look up the Fire Smart program a little bit more. If you'd like to join our Facebook group, I will start sharing some of those tips and tricks as well. So if you're on Facebook and you want to stay up to date on some of those things that are being suggested. Staying informed about things like the fire-resistant plants. So once Bloom Greenhouses has their tags on there, just going in and asking about them is one way to make a big impact. Yeah. Okay. And then I think also the biggest thing you can do is spread the word. So for anyone who wasn't able to make it tonight, or anyone who maybe wasn't aware of this meeting, or who you think would be interested but just doesn't really know what's going on with Fire Safe Society of Masons Point, just letting them know how they can contact us also is really important. Okay, so like Cynthia said, we are a non-profit, so we're all volunteering our time just to try to get some of this funding together. Since we did incorporate, there are some costs associated with operating as an incorporated nonprofit. So if you would like to support us, if you think that this is a good opportunity to access some funding that wouldn't otherwise be available to individuals, we do have a donation bin over there. But also just supporting us by becoming a member, letting us know what you think should happen, letting us know if you have any suggestions, letting us know if you would support this group going forward is really valuable to us at this point. It's hard to make decisions for other people, and that's not what we're trying to do. So the more that you communicate with us, the more that we know what the community needs and what we're looking to do with the funding that we eventually will get. So we're not eligible for grants yet. We haven't been incorporated long enough, but we will be. So for next season, or next wildfire season, we will be able to access different funding opportunities. So we will be able to plan some things that will hopefully make a good impact on this point. So become a member. So for any of you who took those sheets on your way in and you've written your name and your email for us to contact you, that's all the information we need. We're not sharing that information with anyone. We're not sharing it with any organization that we work with either. It's just for us to communicate with you. We won't share your information, your contact information with anyone without your permission. So if one thing that we're thinking of doing is getting a community alert system together, that won't be, your information won't be shared unless you say, yes, I agree to share my email address for this thing. But if you have some ideas of what you'd like to do, if you think that's a positive idea, please send us an email, please let us know, and then we can keep track of what people are feeling about what should happen on this point. The link, we do have a Facebook group. You can search us up as the Fire Safe Society of Masons Point. I know that belongs, so the link is also there. It's also on that orange sheet. So if you want to look us up on Facebook or send us an email, both of those things are on that orange sheet. There are more up at the front if you didn't grab that. And just a reminder, we are so happy to have the support of other communities, people who do not live on Masons Point. I know that Cynthia has done a lot of communicating with other communities who have gone through some of the similar things that we're going through, and gone through these planning stages already. So it's super valuable to have their input, but unfortunately if you're here tonight, you can't join Fire Safe Society of Masons Point if you do not live within these boundary lines. You can definitely join us on Facebook. You can definitely send us an email if you have any questions, or if you're wondering about how we can help in your community as well. We're always happy to chat, always happy to share the information we have. But to sign the member form, you do need to live on Masons. Okay. enough. If you want to have your voice heard, this is the most important one. Once we do start getting access to funds, if there's enough support and people want us to pursue these funds, and we can find a way to cover our operating costs, you get a say in how the funds are spent. So if you really have a pressing issue on Mason's Point that you think should be addressed with our grant funding, being a member ensures that you're being listened to and we know what you feel, we know what you're saying. Okay? And then all the other, the things that come with that, you get to stay up to date on everything that's happening. We already have your email if you want us to share it for an alert system. You're already in the know, you're already in the group. Okay? Excellent.
I just have a couple of things to add. So, yes, we have some people here from Westwood Hills who were kind to invite us to their day last week. They're a bit ahead of us in this, not just because of the fires, but they were working on this from 2017 or so. We picked up a couple of great things from them. We also have some people from Sunnywood, and I know Todd's Island people are interested in what we're doing in Sheepshead. So the plan is to work with these other nearby communities so that we're on the same page and we work together. The other thing I just want to say, things that, like when we're talking about grants and what we're planning to do with them. So our cleanup days would be things like we would get chippers in, rent chippers, have things like that to help us, have HRM come around with some skips or something to be able to pick up extra waste, so not just our normal garbage collection. Those kind of things. Westwood Hills has a great plan where they've got some money and they put a tab at Bay Rentals. So if you show up with your driver's license showing you live in the neighborhood, there's a list of tools you can rent, and we pay for it out of the grant money that we have. And then, yes, we have a big problem in Mason's Point with those huge trees that are bigger than any of us can deal with. So we have to work with other agencies. We have to come up with a plan for how we're going to manage those. So, we can do what we can as a group, but then we have to get others to help us with those things that we can't. So that's what we're looking at.
I have one question that might be for Erica. Back to that point of how do we advance to this idea of like muster stations? And when I was knocking on doors, several families offered up their docs and said they would help, but how do we get to that point that you have that information? And are you sending the Coast Guard or something?
Maybe.
What's
I've done that
happening?
before. But, so 2 points. So Kara's going to send me the fire assessment that she did, or the risk assessment. So I need to look at that. I need to go back through the map and actually come out and drive around. I hoped to do it earlier tonight, but construction on Lucasville Road is not my friend. And then so once I do that, then I will come back to Cynthia, or as a group, but you're my contact.
Right.
And then just put all that together and say, here's where everything's going to go, give you signs, lay it out, the map, and then we can come back, have another meeting, and then brief the community.
And just to feel it'll be your evacuation plan.
Yep.
The EMO evacuation plan specifically for Mason's Point.
Yep.
So another advantage of why we organized is that we'll be ahead of so many communities who haven't gotten to the point of organizing. So I think we're getting
Yeah.
in the right direction.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion? I know I'm kind of loud, but I work in construction, so I kind of know what engineers are. So we're engineers are. It's some funny term, but tonight, like a lot of people here are Mason's Point. So my recommendation for muster points. I mean, I know a lot of people can get to docks, and like everybody should go to the Fountains place. Yeah, that's concrete, lots of room. But if you go, but I mean, you can also go to the end of Mason's Point, the dirt road that goes down, and it's clear. There's all kinds of docks. Now, I was just putting this out there now. Freedom Boats is over at Shining Waters. If we go to them and say, look, if Mason's Point's on fire, and a lot of people are going to go down to the docks, is it possible that they could bring the boats over?
It's not a bad idea.
Right? That's my thought, because they have 8 boats, and they're all ready to go. They can carry probably 10, 15 people in those boats, right? So if you make a plan for muster points, we could probably go over top of shining waters.
Yeah, 100%. And muster points aren't the be all end all. You have to have multiple plans because it depends. Is it an issue on this end? Is it an issue on this end? Is it in the middle? Is it this way? Is it this way? So there's no one answer and there's no cookie cutter approach. And the last thing we want to do is tell people always head towards the water because you could be putting them in danger. So we don't do that.
No, I understand that too,
Yeah,
but,
just want to,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but you're right, we need to
Yeah.
come up with an overall plan. It won't be static, it'll change all the time. And we need to work with agencies, like I know from, with Joint Rescue Command and Control, they're usually the ones that coordinate all that.
Yep.
They know all the resources that are around.
Yep.
If we work with them, they will know our specific community and what our plan is, and
We've done it before. I worked in JRCC for years, and we've called out local fishing vessels, Coast Guard, like whoever just happened to be around gets dispatched out.
We've even used Metro Transit to move people from evacuation to
Oh, we do that all the
point. Yeah, like just think outside the box, right? It's
Yeah.
not.
so we need to know the resources that we have, so we can share that with these agencies, so they know everything we have. And we need a plan to be able to communicate to one another. So that when these things are happening and that, they're transient, conditions are changing, we need to be able to say, don't go there, you have to change and go to this location, that's no longer safe. So these are the kind of things we have to do as a community.
So Cynthia, I think what I'm gonna do is start with $250 in that little penny jar there. And that'll kickstart other grants. And I know you and I had a lot of conversations about whether or not to be a nonprofit or not to be a nonprofit. But knowing that there are other organizations and nonprofit organizations that are doing this work, we're sharing knowledge and we're making sure that everybody has access to the latest and greatest information and the resources. And I can tell you that Forest Nova Scotia wants to support this effort. So if you do have a really big tree that needs to come down, I know a whole bunch of forestry operators that are ready to help out. We are looking at 3 million trees coming out of the wildfire zone. That's not a small feat. So we do have lots of folks who are ready to help, and when you're ready, let me know and we'll connect you.
That's great,
Okay?
thanks. See, the resources are there, we just have to
And then we can
find it.
have
That wasn't the question, that was my back. One thing I brought up to Pam, and I'd like to bring up here, is, in my opinion, open air burning, backyard burning should be banned, period. It's dangerous, obviously. It adds a lot of pollutants to the air, and, prevention is the first line of defense in stopping the fire. So don't create one to begin with, and you don't have a big problem. So I know Pam had said tonight and to me that the HRM says no burning after midnight. Well, I'm not sure how useful that is. I guess it's a start, but it's not particularly useful. I don't think too many people burn after midnight as a general rule. But I would like to see the city and anybody else to add to Pam that open air burning practice something we shouldn't be doing anymore.
Yeah, I agree.